War Eagle Auburn family, and welcome back to the Jungle Show on Auburn Daily YouTube channel and Auburn Daily's Facebook page. On today's 8th edition of the Jungle Show, we are here to talk about Dylan Cardwell and continue our Auburn player breakdown series for this upcoming 2022 through 2023 season and get moving on. We are going down to the juniors, starting with Dylan Cardwell. We'll also talk a little bit about another senior, Stretch Babatunde Akingbola, who's become kind of a bench role player, but a true Auburn man. We're very excited to see Stretch continue to come back for his senior year next year. But all that and more next on the Jungle Show. All right. War Eagle, welcome back to the Jungle Show. Just like I said in the intro, we are here again to talk about Dylan Cardwell. Yeah. New setup. A few little house things before we get talking about the returning junior center. Let's talk about new setup here. There is a little bit of an audio delay between Dad and his picture, between Chris and his picture on the right side of the screen there, but it should not be too much of an issue. I think it's going to be like half a second, maybe that. Also, the mowing company decided to mow today right outside the room. Hopefully they're not here anymore, but they'll probably be back. So we're just, that's part of the flow, especially with summer. Last week it was the ice cream truck in Auburn. Today it's the mowing company in Birmingham. So here we go. This is basketball in the summer right here. War Eagle.
We're thankful he is mowing the grass, so we don't want to get snakes.
Yeah, that's right. It's that time of year. But we are here to talk about Dylan Cardwell. I wrote an article on auburndaily.com that was published this morning at 10 p.m. Central Time. It was published on auburndaily.com about Dylan Cardwell, breaking down Cardwell and his years, the past 2 years. He's had kind of an interesting past 2 years, but excited to get Dylan back this year. Dylan went into the 2022 NBA draft process, and a lot of that took a surprise to people. Were you surprised about that?
I'm never really surprised about it because this is an opportunity for kids to get a look by NBA scouts. So you take advantage of it, and the NBA allows you to come in and test the waters and then move back out and come back to school.
Yeah.
So I really wasn't surprised that Dylan's coming back. He needs work on his offensive game, but he was able to get out and have some different voices tell him that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important, especially nowadays. And we were talking about this when we were talking about Alan Flanagan last week. We were saying the importance football should follow this. The NFL really needs to add this to their draft process and draft system. But something that the NBA does is allow people, if they don't feel like they can get drafted at a certain deadline, which this year it was June 1st, to say, no, I think I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to take the advice that I got from these NBA scouts and NBA coaches and NBA executives, go back, work on my college game. That way I can be in a better position for the next draft or so on and so forth. And that is exactly what Dylan is doing here.
Yeah, like you said, we talked about that last week with Alan. Alan made a good decision. Alan was probably a little bit more NBA ready than Dylan is. But Alan came back. Dylan came back. And I think they both made wise decisions in looking and testing those waters and then coming back to Auburn.
I agree. So we'll get right into the article that we got going here. As we go down through this article, I mentioned in the intro, we're also kind of going to discuss some of these things for Stretch. Really happy to have Stretch back. I think he's the perfect guy to have as the 12 spot or the 13 spot on the scholarships for this team. He's a great practice player. He really challenges the guys on the practice court. And if he's ever given that opportunity, he exceeds it, and he exceeds it well. He came to Auburn as more higher expectations than I originally than he exceeded, but nonetheless is a great guy and a great player.
I just real quick about Stretch, because this is about Dylan, but we didn't want to leave out a senior. Mm-hmm. The problem is there's not a lot of film to talk about. There's not a lot of things that he's done, Stretch Akimbola, except, like you said, he's a great practice player. He's a great teammate. The guys seem to love him on his team, and he makes them better.
That's right.
He's not going to get significant playing time, short of, oh goodness, many injuries.
Bad things happening.
But he's a guy that all the teammates seem to like him, and the people around Auburn seem to like him. I think he's a quality citizen and a good kid, and so you don't want to leave him out. But we also don't want to do a 30-minute show talking about Stretch when he's getting 30 seconds a year.
Yeah, and that's the problem with Dylan. It was a lot easier to write all these articles, write this article and fill in all these categories that we want to talk about on the show and talk about on the article, and have things to talk about. With Stretch, it would have been a little harder. And I think it's going to be a little harder as well with like Chris Moore. But I think we can make Chris Moore. I think we can make Chris Moore work for an entire article, an entire episode. So
let's talk about Dylan.
Expect an article and a full show on every single other player, and we'll do the incoming players last. We'll do the incoming players.
Even if they're incoming sophomores.
I think so.
Okay.
I think we should. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's show some respect to the guys who were here last year.
We're here for the historic year last year, and one of those guys is the guy we're talking about today, Dylan Cardwell, returning junior, senior again. Yeah, just like one of the fan favorites, one of the Auburn University favorites, and not just basketball, but all of sports. Dylan is an icon when it comes to being. When you think of Auburn, you think of Dylan Cardwell.
A lot of people do, because a lot of people. 88,000 people every Saturday go in a building and watch a football team play, and then they look up on that big board, and there's Dylan Cardwell
with his
shirt off, leading his teammates, and as loud and exuberant as probably anybody in the stadium. Cheering for that football team. And then he's also at the baseball field the other night. The whole basketball team was at the baseball field. So he's a guy that loves his college experience, and I enjoy watching a guy enjoy himself in college.
That's right. And it's fun to see, especially a guy like him, embrace the jungle, embrace going to the Jordan Hare on Saturdays in the fall, embrace the college experience. And that's, I think, most, if not all, of the guys on the team last year really showed that they did, and showed that out loud. And Dylan was right in the front and center of that. And that helps more than just on the basketball court.
It does. And you pointed out in your article, he's kind of become a cult hero around town. He's pretty hard to miss. He's 6'10", and he's a big 6'10".
Seen him riding that scooter all the time.
I wish you wouldn't ride a scooter.
That just looks weird. There's like a little 3-foot scooter and a 6'10" Dylan Cardwell's on it.
But he's a big 6'10". He's a cult hero. The people love him. When he gets going on the court, he provides a lot of energy.
That's right. That's one of the biggest things in the article. But before we get into all those great categories, let's talk a little bit about the stats. So Cardwell sat on the bench in his freshman and sophomore year, came to Auburn on a very late offer to come to Auburn, and joined his high school teammate, Sharif Cooper, who's now with the Atlanta Hawks, joined him as a 3-star center in that freshman year, had come play during the COVID year. It was his freshman year. And that year he sat behind on the 5 spot. He sat behind JT Thor, who's now a Charlotte Hornet.
Right there.
That's right. It's my room. If you don't understand, we're sitting right across from each other. He's sitting right diagonal to me. So, but
he sat behind
JT Thor. Yeah. And then this upcoming year, he sat behind, North Carolina transfer Walker Kessler. And that, you could get swallowed in, getting minutes when you're sitting behind 2 guys like that. And even if you include guys like Jalen Williams and Jabari Smith, to get minutes, those are tough guys to beat. Those are 4 guys that are going to be tough to beat. And that's not going to change this upcoming year with the guys that he's got to compete against. Jalen Williams still in that mix. Janai Broome will be in that mix, and Yohan Traore will be in that mix. All 3 of those guys have reasons to start on this team next year, as does Dylan. I think Dylan being an upperclassman, you could make an argument for him being in the starting lineup.
Very good defender. Was pretty high up there in the nation in block shots, at least block shot rate, for a while. We'll talk about it. You spoke about in the article. He needs to work on his offense, but he's a very good defender, and the people love him when he's on the court because he's just fun. And when he's not on the court, when Jabari had that dunk against Jacksonville State in the NCAA tournament, Dylan's face. Yeah. I mean, the cameras love the guy. Yeah, they search for him, and so he's kind of the face of that team. So excited. He's one of my favorite players on the team. I'll be honest with you. I love watching Dylan, and yes, he's limited, but his energy, his passion. He loves Auburn. It's just one of those things.
That's right. That's right. So. We're doing all the 4 categories. We got biggest strength, what they need to work on the most, best moment from this past year, 2021, and the reasonable expectations for 2022. So we're going to start off with the biggest strength. That's the first one that is in the article you can find on auburndaily.com, and the picture that Zach and Lance put for the biggest strength is his reaction to the Jabari Smith against Jacksonville State dunk, where he's, that's perfect, But I do believe, and I don't think there's any argument, and I don't think there's any disagreement here within the Auburn fan base and the Auburn basketball fan base, his energy that he provides, whether he's on the court, whether he's on the sideline, whether he's completely off the court, no matter what, he provides incredible energy, which helps not only him play, but the entire team, gets the crowd going. Look, he's a jungle feed. He just feeds off the jungle so well. And I knew it when I was watching him when there was no jungle and during the COVID year. I was like, man, get this kid in front of the jungle. It's over.
You and I talked about that a lot that year. Yeah. He would take a charge or block a shot or get a follow-up dunk, which are kind of the things he does. Mm-hmm. And he would get up and run down the court flexing.
Like
and there wasn't anybody in the gym.
Yeah, there was like 10 people in there.
and we both said, man, when he gets in front of a full house, he's going to be fun. And one of the biggest things that I saw this year was, I guess it was against Kentucky when Devin Cambridge got the breakaway and almost tripped, but got himself able to make it to dunk it.
Dunked the ball.
Still dunked it hard. Yeah. Dylan Cardwell ran directly to the jungle, and he and KD, our two Energizer bunnies, both ran to the jungle.
Yeah. So did Jabari.
And Jabari did too. So the energy is his strength. His passion for the game, his passion for Auburn.
That's what he provides, and that's exactly what we need and expect out of Dylan. Mm-hmm. So if there's one thing that he can improve on, and I think we both have the same answer for this, but I'm going to ask you, if there's one thing that he can improve on to make himself more valuable, to get himself more minutes this upcoming year, what does he need to change? What does he need to work on? What could he get better at?
I'm going to divide it into 2 things. I know you said just one thing. Overall, it's one thing. It's offensive prowess on the basketball court. Dylan is very good at getting himself open for lobs. He's a really good rebounder and can follow up on the boards and dunk it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to see him add a back to the basket game where he can, even if he's got two moves, a hook shot and a drop step.
Yeah.
Even if it's just those two, that's better than where we are now.
Oh, yeah.
And would make him more valuable. Yeah. The next thing I would say is if he could make that 15-footer, that elbow jumper, where he could draw his guy out a little further, just a 15-foot. Look, he's not a bad free throw shooter. I don't look at him and go, oh gosh, I don't want him to shoot free throws. So he's not. If he could just add that 15-foot jump shot from the elbow of the lane and a hook shot from one side and a drop step from the other side, mm-hmm. I think it would add minutes to his game because the guys in front of him all have that.
Yep.
Jalen Williams has that plus a 3-point shot.
Yep.
Janai Broome has that.
He's more back to the basket.
Very good back to the basket. And he's got more than two moves.
Yeah.
Yohan Traore has that.
Oh, extremely.
So the guys in front of him have got those offensive moves. And if he could just develop those so that when he comes in the game, he's not just energy and passion and defense. He can get a bucket.
Yeah.
And if he can get 8-10 points and 6-8 rebounds in limited minutes,
he's going to get on the floor. He's going to get on the floor.
He's going to earn some more minutes. So.
That's right. That's exactly what I said in the article. I just said post moves, and you hit exactly on that. If Cardwell can be more refined in his back to the basket game, and just like you said, maybe a little, not even just a 15-footer, but like a 10-footer, something where he can, put the ball in the basket
he's a threat
away from where he's dunking the ball.
Yeah.
Where he can be a threat. Not only will that, give him more minutes, give him more shots on the floor, that'll open things up for Wendell, KD, Allen. Mm-hmm. That'll open things up extremely for them, especially if you play Cardwell at the 5, which I expect us to do. Mm-hmm. That'll open up things for Traore and Jalen Williams.
He is. And just to where he could get the ball in the 8-10 foot range, turn and face, either make a shot or drive to the hole, make a hook or a dunk. Yeah. He doesn't need to be Jabari Smith.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be Walker Kessler.
Yeah.
Walker could step away from the rim. Walker was more of a face to the basket.
Yeah.
Dylan is not that. Dylan is a back to the basket guy. He just needs a couple of, like you said, you refine a couple moves and you get it to where he scores 6 points without all those being dunks.
Yeah.
He'd be a valuable piece. And like you said, he adds value because he's
extremely energetic, extremely enthusiastic,
and plays defense.
And plays defense. He's a great defender. We talk about what he needs to help offensively. He's a great offensive rebounder. Mm-hmm. He's very good at catching those lobs. He's very good at finishing plays that off of offensive rebounds. We'll talk about a game where he did 3 of those here in a minute. But
something that I noticed with him on defense is he's light on his feet. Lighter than you think he is.
Yeah, he's 6'10".
He goes out, and when they're trying to run high screen and roll, he can hedge that screen and make sure that guy goes towards the half-court line instead of back. Instead of towards the rim. I watched the Warriors and Celtics in the finals. I don't understand why the Celtics aren't hedging their screens because they're giving Steph Curry wide open looks.
Yeah.
They're up 2-1. They may go up 3-1 tonight. Yeah. However, they are not. Yeah. I mean, they're not stepping up on their screens, and that's what Dylan provides. He's quick enough and light enough on his feet that he can hedge that screen and stay out there and cause the guy to go back towards half court. That's what you want.
That's an extremely underrated defensive quality because a lot of bigs don't. When they hear high hedge, they just put their foot right on where the screener is, and then just try and steal the ball from the guard. Mm-hmm. Number one, you're going to catch a foul if you reach. Mm-hmm. Every guard knows how to draw that foul. Wendell loves to draw that foul and draws that all the time. Being able to push the guard back away from the basket and scoot him that way, not only does the guard that was being screened have a chance to get back, and you have great defensive guards, especially this past year and this year, unbelievable defensive guards. For them to get back to guarding that guy, but not just get back to him, but the big has pushed them farther back.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I agree.
That's a big deal.
I agree. So
the way we need to say War Eagle.
Yeah, Kyron said he or she said War Eagle at the very start of the show, and
I'm War sorry, Eagle. I just saw War Eagle.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
So we're going to talk about the best moment from 2021. And this past season, obviously, Dylan averaged 3 points a game and 3 rebounds, which you had Jabari Smith, you had Walker Kessler, you had Jalen Williams, you had you had Wendell Green, you had scores. You didn't need scoring from Dylan Cardwell. You needed defense, you need rebounding, you need minutes in case Walker Kessler got into a sticky situation. And that's exactly where we fall here. Walker was so good all year, and some will argue with this, and there are games that I would agree that I would change this opinion, but Walker was so good this year at not fouling, at being the second guy to jump instead of the first guy to jump. Because if you're the first guy to jump at a shot,
you're in trouble.
They're just going to pump fake, and it's going to be too easy for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It didn't work.
Walker, trying to get that to work. Walker is he was very good at not fouling.
He was very good at not fouling in this game that we're getting ready to talk about, by the way.
I 100% agree with that. Walker was called for 2 really quick ticky-tack fouls. And the game we're talking about is the game at Coleman Coliseum against Alabama, the first game there where we were ranked number 4 and they were ranked number 24, and they would just come off of beating Gonzaga in Seattle. And everybody thought Alabama was back on the rise after losing to Memphis and somebody else.
Sorry.
I don't know. Like Iona. That's who they were. Iona.
They lost to Rick Pitino beat them.
Whatever. Yeah. And everybody thought Alabama was back, and that was the most back and forth game. And that was one of Auburn's best games, as a full game. Alabama went on that run late to tie the game back up, but then they could never get over the hump, and Alan Flanagan ended up making the free throws to seal the game 81-77. But in that game, it's like those officials just called Walker for fouls because he was big and because he was tall. And Walker would be standing there, and the Alabama guys would do a great job of going into Walker, but Walker would be standing there with his hands straight up and pretty much backwards, and they would call it on Walker because the Alabama guy got hit. And, we can blame that. We can blame officials as much as we want for that. But we're here to talk about the positive of that situation.
Yeah.
Dylan played his best game I've ever seen him play in that game, stepping up, playing a career high 18 minutes in that game, went 3 for 4 from the field, had 6 points, 6 rebounds, and a season high 4 blocks.
It was the next man up mentality. No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, Walker got 2 ticky-tack fouls
early.
Yep. And I thought to myself, this is not good.
Yeah.
And Dylan came in, and not only did he hold his own, like you said, the 4 block shots were huge in that game because we had lost our shot blocker, at least we thought we had.
Yeah.
Most of his points were follow-up dunks, too, where guys had missed the layup, and Dylan just crashing the boards and almost pulling the rim off.
Yeah.
He changed that game. Jabari probably, look back at the game, Jabari probably is the MVP of that game.
Won the game.
Wendell was fantastic.
Wendell was unbelievable.
Allen hit 4 free throws down the stretch that won the game. But if I look back at it, if we don't have the game that we had from Dylan Cardwell, we don't win that.
Yeah. I would completely agree. And that is by far Dylan's best moment, best performance of his career, best moment of last year.
And then he did the crane.
And then he immediately did the Crimson Crane, as well as Jabari, as well as KD,
right,
as well as the entire bench.
It was excellent.
Right at the student, right at the Alabama
Right
students.
as the buzzer went off, Dylan popped up like
Which is
that.
just
like, there he is.
I have a really good friend who's an Alabama student who was there, and he just texted me all these horrible things about number 44 and Jabari. And I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted to hear after we just came in and beat y'all.
Yeah, it's by far his best game. Best game I've ever seen him play. I hope that now that maybe he can get a few more minutes without Walker here. I hope he's got more games like that in him. And I think he does.
I would agree. So the next category we got is the expectations for 2022, and you kind of hinted at that before. I don't know if you meant to do that, but it's easy to see. I wrote here. This is what I wrote in the article, and I'll kind of read off the article if you want to follow along. Whether you're live or whether you're watching on the replay, it's on auburndaily.com. You just go to the basketball tab. It should be right there. The Auburn bet.
It's tweeted out on that.
It is. He tweeted it out, and I'll tweet it out on mine. Mine's right there at Gray Oldenburg or at War Eagle Hoops. So it's easy to see Cardwell coming off the bench in 2022 behind guys, especially like 5-star freshman from a decommit from LSU, Yohan Traore, or the Murray State transfer or Morehead State transfer, Janai Brew. But after getting that NBA scout advice from going to the NBA draft process and learning what he needs to improve on to be at that next level, you can really see Cardwell maybe improve, maybe even throughout the season, especially his offensive game, in taking a new, improved role as an upperclassman to be, to get more minutes than he has the past 2 years.
I think we've got, excuse me, I think we've got a really positive group of leaders on this team. We talked about it as we've gone through our seniors. Zep Jasper, Alan Flanagan, Dylan Cardwell. I think Dylan can definitely be an emotional leader on this team and be the vocal leader. When we talked about Alan Flanagan last week, one of the things I wanted to see more from Flanagan was the vocal leadership. And Alan doesn't really do that.
Yeah.
He may in practice, but you don't see it in the games. What I'm saying, you see it in the games with Dylan.
Oh yeah.
And maybe we've got a chance for Dylan to step up and be that vocal senior or junior leader.
Yeah, I think that would be. I think that's the best possible scenario, especially for Dylan, if he could change his role not just on the court but in the locker room and on the practice court. Because if he does that, then he's a different player on the court and in Neville Arena and in other SEC arenas because of what he provides, not only defensively, rebounding, if he could add post moves, but what he provides, what we said his biggest strength was with his energy, his enthusiasm, and his I don't want to call it cockiness. I want to call it knowing that he's on the best team in the SEC.
That was cocky. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it was cocky. Oh, it was cocky. I agree. But we'll go ahead and wrap up the talk about Dylan Cardwell next week. What do you think? Let's decide right now. What do you think?
Rising juniors.
What about
Wendell?
My guy?
And Wendell.
Technically, Wendell's a rising sophomore.
Okay, yeah,
because they consider Wendell a freshman
last year. Yeah, okay.
Now he's the same age.
Let's put Wendell in the sophomores.
What about KD Johnson?
Yeah, then we definitely do KD. We're going to go from one energetic player to another.
A psychopath, yes. A complete psychopath on the basketball floor.
I can't wait to talk about KD. KD was a lot of fun this year, and I look forward to watching KD. I always enjoy watching KD play.
Yeah.
Heck, I enjoyed watching him play when he was at Georgia, and I can't stand Georgia.
I don't know if I go to stretch that far because I hated him when we played Georgia at Georgia. Now we destroyed them. Sharif Cooper was unbelievable. But
he was good.
KD was great.
He was good in that game. So it'll be fun next week to talk about KD.
I'm excited. We'll get that article published before the show on auburndaily.com. You can check out all the stuff on Auburn Daily on auburndaily.com or on the Twitter at SI_Auburn. You can find both of our Twitters, mine at Gray Oldenburg or his is at War Eagle Hoops. I know you're trying to figure out where there it is.
Sorry, it's backwards. I'm just freaking me out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll go ahead and get out of here. And until next Friday, War Eagle.
Kyron, thanks for joining us. See y'all.